Hey, it's Nada Nasserdeen, the CEO and founder of Rise Up For You. Welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast. So if you ever thought about being a coach or hiring a coach, you're going to want to watch this episode. Today, I invite Hayssam Al Amine all the way from the UAE, and he runs a learning and development company that really dives into the niche of coaching and training. But here's the thing, he's also an entrepreneur. So today in this episode, we do a deep dive into what it's like to run your own business, build it from scratch, but also be in the coaching and training space. One of the things that we talk about that I think is so important is how to be a great coach. So if you've ever had a coach, you might have had a coach that maybe didn't move the needle for you. Maybe you spent thousands of dollars, or maybe you're coaching your clients right now and you're trying to figure out how to serve them to their absolute best so that they can push their potential. This episode dives into all of those nuances. It's a great conversation, one that I was really, really looking forward to, and I'm positive you're going to enjoy. So welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast, and let's get started. Hayssam, welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Nada. It's great to be here. It's long overdue, and I can't wait.
Long overdue. So for those of you that are listening, Hayssam and I met in Dubai. I want to say like a year and a half ago.
Yes, about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. And I was in Dubai doing some work. I was doing some speaking on workplace culture, emotional intelligence. And someone told me about you, Hayssam. This is actually how I got connected to you. And I believe you were working for their company. It was like in real estate in Dubai. And they were like, oh, we have this great like coach and trainer that does leadership development for our company. And his name's Hayssam. And I'm like, well, let me check him out.
Really?
Yeah, so I went on.
I think I know the name of the client. I think I know.
Maybe, yeah. And so one of my friends works there, so he was telling me about you. And so I went online and I searched you, and I was like, I love what you're doing. Obviously, we connect on a lot of different levels with the work that we're doing, everything that you stand for. And so I had to connect with you in Dubai. I was like, I got to reach out to this guy because you're doing amazing stuff. Not to mention that you're also from Lebanon. So
Homegirl.
Yeah, exactly. But so I love the work that you're doing. I wanted to invite you to the podcast. Anyone that's listening to the podcast, everyone that I invite, it's because I want to have a conversation with. I'm interested in the work that they're doing. Like I want to have just an authentic conversation. And so, Hayssam, tell us a little bit just about who you are in general in your own words. And then I want to dig in a little bit to just how you got to where you are, your journey.
Well, thank you, Nada. I don't know where to start, but you know, I find myself sometimes, searching for the right words to describe who I am. And I think what I am is somebody who would like to change the world one person at a time. What I do for a living is not just a job. I pour in heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears. And I love watching people just bloom and develop and grow. I am the CEO of RPM Consultancy and Training, the region's only boutique training company. And we can talk about that later and how we do things. We're extremely personalized and tailor-made. And we've taken a couple of steps last year and this year to innovate and differentiate. And our clients are just loving it. So I'm also into other businesses. I've got my training and development company, which is our main bread and butter. I've just launched a digital marketing agency, which will be operating very, very soon. And also very soon we'll have a RPM Analytics, which is a BI and data analytics firm as well that we're launching next month. But what I do for a living is I travel the entire Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. And, I talk to people and I have an amazing time in the process.
Yeah, I love that. And congratulations on everything that you're doing. Something that I really appreciate about you, because obviously, I follow you and stuff on social media, is that you're not afraid to evolve what you're doing, especially in the learning and development space. A lot of times people think that, we just go and we train and we coach, but it's so much more than that. It's making an impact. I love that you said, changing one person at a time. but you're getting into analytics, you're getting into marketing. And sometimes I think people forget that we're also entrepreneurs as well, right? And we do what we do because we want to change the world in whatever way that makes sense for us. So You're doing awesome. I appreciate it. I want to know a little bit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We haven't really had an opportunity to talk about this, Hayssam, but like, why did you get into this field? How did it happen? Because everybody starts somewhere. And so I'm always curious why people get into like company culture, leadership, sales. I know you're really strong with customer service. So we're going to talk about that because it's like my pet peeve is for customer service. So we got to talk about it.
That's mine as well.
Yeah, I just want to know how you got to where you are today.
I think it all started when I was 4.5 years old. I didn't speak till the age of 4.5. I didn't speak. And I truly believe that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And I developed an incredible sense of observation ever since I was a child. And when I started speaking, I always say this, and I mentioned this in all of my training programs, that they couldn't shut me up. I was just the talker, the performer in the family. My family would gather around me and I'd tell stories. And I had the grasp of good storytelling, primarily because I was raised by my grandmother, God bless her soul, who was an incredible cook and an amazing storyteller. And I grew up around that. And as you know, if you watch, you follow my Instagram page, I'm also, my second passion is to feed people's stomachs, not just their mind. And, so I grew up telling good stories and cooking. And when my sort of career aspirations as a pilot didn't work out because of many different elements, but I found myself when I graduated from an ex-military academy in the US, I found myself in the hospitality business. And the hotel business was just an incredible opportunity for me to get bitten by the bug and the passion for service. And that's where they both started. I remember we had a training company spearheaded by Don Farrell in the US, a company named Signature. And by the way, he's going to be my guest next week on my podcast.
I love that.
And he delivered a training program and I was smitten, Nada. I was like, wow, this guy is incredible. He was a fantastic storyteller, an inspirational individual. And we really connected. I'm talking, this is in 1987, 86, 87. And and he told me, he says, because we were doing the Train the Trainer and another program on customer service with Sheraton at the time.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, he goes, I can see why they nominated you for Train the Trainer. I was just a kid. I was in my early 20s. He goes, one day you're going to become an awesome trainer. And that stuck with me. So throughout my hospitality career, I was an SGSS trainer for Sheraton. It's called Sheraton Guest Satisfaction Standards. Yeah. And then when I left Sheraton, I worked with TNT. I did a bit of sales training. And then I moved on with an executive role with Ford Motor Company, and I was responsible for after sales training, and that sort of stuck with me. And I became closer to this business, and I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit, jump ship my corporate career, and I pursue being a corporate trainer. And I did. And it was a very difficult beginning. God knows how many mistakes I've done, and I've learned through trial and error. Yeah. And then in 2002, I started as a one-man show with RPM Consultancy, and now we grew into a beautiful team that serves the entire Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. And of course, what I do is also I do a bit of executive coaching. But what I do is I travel, as you know, about 20 to 23 days a month, deliver a training program across the region.
Yeah, that's the nature of the beast.
That's where I'll start.
So I want to go back a little bit. Congratulations, first off, because I always say from a business owner, from an entrepreneur standpoint, it's a lot of work. You know what I mean? A lot of times people just see the outcome of their social media, whatever it is, but it's a lot of work. And so I want to go back to, you said you had challenges and it was difficult. I want to go there for a minute because oftentimes people don't talk about that. And so people don't realize that, your success today, it didn't just happen. There was probably a lot of failures. I lost money in the past. There's been months where I didn't make payroll. Like, this is all part of like the beginning process of building a business.
Yeah.
I'd love to just touch a little bit on like what were some of the challenges, or maybe the most defining challenges for you that were maybe an epiphany, or that got you to shift something in your business or the growth that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, when I first started, RPM was a one-man show. So I had like 6 email addresses, info at RPM, sales at RPM, Hayssam at RPM, and I started this with zero knowledge about the business. And I was a freelancer for a couple of years before I thought, okay, now I'm going to build my team. And in the first 2 years of being a trainer, I really didn't have enough money to spend on myself in terms of upskilling myself and taking some courses, but I just resorted to reading and watching some, back then we didn't have that access to social media and YouTube as we have now, but whatever I had, the different tools to observe people in action. I attended training programs and I was absorbing information, and I decided, well, if I want to be recognized in this field, I have to say yes to everything. What I meant by that is somebody say, can you do a program on business report writing? I'll be like, yeah, sure I can. Because I knew if you have presentation skills and the facilitation skills, and then you study the topic, and then you know how to facilitate the topic and engage your participants, and making sure that there is a solid agenda and some good key learning elements with practical applications, then you're an amazing trainer. So I learned that through trial and error and teaching myself, and eventually I got certified in multiple disciplines. But the one thing I think that there was a pivotal moment for me was when I received my first negative feedback, and it was really devastating for me. And I thought, and the feedback was, Hayssam, you were talking to us like we were children. And I was very defensive about it. I'm like, no, but that's not my intention. But then I thought, it is feedback, right? And then I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I thought, well, what is Hayssam's personal brand as a trainer? How do you want to come across to your audiences and to the participants that you work with? What is going to make you different than anyone else? And I drew strength from my experience growing up in Lebanon, up until the time where I went to the US when I was 14 years old, and I went to Lindsley Academy in West Virginia. And that story is, I survived sniper fire, and I survived 2 car bombs, and among many other situations, and many other dangerous and deadly situations. And living in that environment, we had to sort of acclimate and be extremely flexible and very, very on our toes, and it gave us the survival mechanisms, and I drew a lot of strength, and I realized that I have a lot of resolve. But then I realized I have a great story to tell. So I thought, let me combine what I do technically with participants, like, well, let's say, for example, with delivering emotional intelligence or leadership development, or there's some technical elements. But then what I realized that people connect to the most is personal stories that resonate with participants, and you talk from the heart. And I truly believe that when you talk to the hearts and soul of participants, then their mind will follow. And I started to combine my personal experiences in my growing up as a child in that environment, and then moving on to the US, and the ups and downs that I've had. And people really, really enjoyed listening to these stories, because there was not just stories about talking about myself. It was stories to shed light on resilience and failures and bouncing back. And so now I call myself an inspirational corporate trainer, not just a business corporate trainer. So I inspire people to take action towards personal development and growth. I connect with people through empathy and understanding and acceptance. And I wear my heart on my sleeve when I talk to people, because people are people. They're not numbers. And that's how I think we move individuals, and we reach out to them and connect with them. That was my challenge. The failures that you were asking me about is that not understanding at the very early stage in 2002, 2003, not understanding how to run a consultancy. And being competent is one thing. So one of the things it became RPM became Hayssam, and Hayssam became RPM. And that was very comfortable because I was busy and I was all over the place, but I wasn't growing in terms of, there's no growth. It was just making money. And I wasn't in it just to make the money. I was in it to make sure that, I leave a good legacy behind me. And my tagline is changing the world one person at a time. I want to connect and change people's lives as much as possible because that's what I want my legacy to be. So I made a lot of bad business decisions, a lot of bad investments. And I learned from those failures because, like you see, people see what's on the tip of the iceberg and they don't realize all the heartache and the sleepless nights that we endure. So this is when I started to say help. And that's something I didn't learn how to do, help. So I've sought mentors. I asked people in my network, what do you think I should do with this? And how do I manage my P&L? And I became a learner. And because it is, I find a lot of trainers who a lot of consultants and trainers who refuse to say the word, I don't know, because it's just not befitting. And that word was my favorite. I don't know how to do that. Could you show me? Because if I'm not a learner and I cannot be an active learner myself, then how do I expect my participants to be learners? It's going to be sort of, contradictive, isn't it? So I learned from all of these mistakes, and then we were doing really well. And then, of course, the ups and downs of the business trends and the markets. But then we were really on top and really, really on top until Corona hit. And Corona was absolutely devastating for us. 2020 was set to be the golden year for RPM. We signed up for the first time multiple accounts in Saudi Arabia, multiple accounts in the UAE, in Egypt, in Jordan, in India. And we were like, this is our year because we've expanded our trainers to about 20. I don't want more than that to keep it boutique. And it was just, we were just on top. And then we got hit by Corona. And it was just one cancellation after the other. I paid the team every salary while not paying myself. And a lot of people don't know this, Nada. But at one point, I was with my wife, Anna, and we're sitting and we said, how are we going to buy food for the cat? That's how bad it was, because I put my team ahead of me. I put everybody ahead of me because I will not let my team down, the team that stood by me. So I thought I need to come up with something that's really, really unusual. And what I did was we contacted all of our clients, existing and potential. And we said, what kind of training do you want? They said, Hayssam, we just don't have the budget. I said, what kind of training do you want? We will do it for free. For 8 months, Nada, me and my trainers, we conducted training programs and coaching for free. Online sessions. And we design our content that has to do everything that has to do with Corona, managing remotely, customer service on the phone, and all of those, how to become effective while working from home, and how to, it's just all of those things while and our clients loved it. And a lot of people said, why are you doing this for free? I said, well, it's a gamble I'm willing to take. 100%. The minute things got better, 2022, we made, and not just a golden year, it was a record year. All of those clients and all of these existing and potential clients came to us and said, Hayssam, thank you for standing by us. What can we do and how can we do business? So that put us back on the map. And this is where we honed in on our ability to deliver great online training programs. And of course, we had the heightened responsibility to take care of the customers that signed up with us. And we're still in that learning process. We're still innovating. We're still doing things differently. But most of all, we're doing it to help customers, not just to tick an L&D box.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you have said that I want to pull out a little bit. So first, I always talk about how the person is the professional and the professional is the person. And I think especially in the learning and development space, that's even more critical because people want to listen from individuals that have done it. They want to listen from people that have actually showed resilience, that have built confidence, that have fallen on their face as leaders or executives, and then understood how to build leadership and emotional intelligence skills from these failures. They want to know that you understand what it's like to be in the trenches, that you've gotten your hands dirty, and that's how they resonate and learn from you. And I think that you hit it perfectly, that sometimes, especially in the corporate leadership space, personal professional development, coaches and trainers often put this facade that like, oh, I have all these answers, and they forget to share all the trials and tribulations that they've gone through.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that you shared your story, and thank you for sharing, because there are executives that listen to this podcast. There are entrepreneurs, there are solopreneurs that are coaches. And sometimes they think, or we think, I'll add myself to the category, that you're the only one that did it, that you're the only one that has suffered, that you're the only one that hasn't paid yourself for 6 months, that, that you've kind of gone through these challenges. And I think it's important for people to hear how much you believe in what you do, because I always say, if you don't believe in what you do, no one's going to believe in it. How much you believe in what you do, to the point that for 8 months you did free training, you paid your team, you didn't pay yourself, because that means that you, Hayssam, there is a deeper feeling and drive inside of you that's beyond just the monetization, that's beyond the accolades of going into a company and being that leader that's training. And I think all those things are really important. I want to ask you, I'm always very transparent. One of the things that I am working on every single day, and I don't know if you have this, Hayssam, is trying not to, criticize or pick some of the other like training and coaching and things that you see, because naturally, like, I do a lot of research, I watch other coaches, I watch other trainers, and so you kind of like pick things apart, or you say, well, I wouldn't have done that, or I would do this. And, I actively work on that, because I want everyone to shine. I want everyone to be their absolute best. But then there's that competitive side that's like, well, I would do this, how you kind of pick things apart. I want to know from you, because in the last week, I've had multiple people say to me, I paid a coach $20,000. I got zero from it. I did a training. It was $10,000. I got no ROI. I hired this coach for $30,000, and I feel like my money was stolen. And I take coaching and training very seriously. I always say, it's your success is our success. If there's no success, then we have failed. So from your perspective, you've been in the trenches. What do you think makes an amazing, let's start with coach, because I do believe there's nuances between training and coaching. What do you think makes an amazing coach?
Stop using coaches that use this cut and paste approach with every single client.
Yeah.
They follow their methodology from whichever, certification body, which I'm totally with, because these are the disciplines that we need to acquire and learn. But I see a lot of coaches following that, just like, it's the standard questions and standard exercises, which I don't do, by the way. I've got a completely sort of an unorthodox coaching methodology that I designed way before coaching was even a thing here in this region, like 15 years ago, 2005, when I was engaged with Nokia, when Nokia was trying to hold on to whatever success and presence they had in the market, and I came up with a coaching methodology, and I've been using it ever since that time. I use certain guidelines. But I really first spend the first 2 sessions. I got a chemistry session with my clients, and then I spend the next session understanding who they are, what they are, and really getting to know them on an individual level, like really, really close on an individual level. Because believe it or not, about 80% of my business executive coaching sessions turn way on the we tip the scale on the personal issues.
Yeah.
And whether it's relationships or family or mindset, and that had helped me a lot. My success ratio is about 99%. All the clients that I work with, they all come back with incredible results. And the second thing is really enjoy it. I mean, you have to love people and love working with people. And and learn from them, because I found myself learning from my clients and growing with them and healing with them. Believe it or not, the closer you get to people, you more understand, the more understanding you become of their situations. We heal with our clients. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not, but we do heal, you know. And that's the feedback. And I'm not bigging myself up here. The feedback that I get is, Hayssam, I feel incredibly light, inspired after these sessions, and thank you for making things, for giving me clarity. And I say, I'm not doing anything. You're doing it all by yourself. I'm just simply asking the good questions, the questions that matter to you, not just their questions, but the questions that matter to you, that lets you know that I've been listening between the lines. I'm starting to understand what your limiting belief systems are. I'm trying to be, I call it tough love, because I use tough love with my clients. And I'm saying, and sometimes I say things like, are you saying that to me, or are you saying that to yourself? And for me, honesty and empathy and caring is, I think those are the three elements that makes a great coach, in my opinion.
Yeah, you said a couple things there that I love. I love that you said them, because they're values that we use here at Rise Up For You with coaching as well. Is first, it is tough love, because you don't want someone to pay you thousands of dollars for you to be a yes and coach, to just say yes, yes. Like as a coach, you have to have some assertiveness to challenge and to push back and to ask the questions that are going to push the person that's on the other side, the coachee. The second thing that you said that is so important, anyone that's listening, please, if you ever have a coach, please listen to this part, is that's the coach's responsibility to ask the critical questions, not to give you advice, not to tell you what to do, but to really understand what kind of questions I have to ask you so that you can find the answer and solve the problem for yourself and then take action. And I think that those two things that you said are spot on. And that's why I wanted to talk with you, Hayssam. I'm like, I already know that we're
you know? Well, I mean, and it's funny that you said that, because I get a lot of my clients say, Hayssam, what should I do with this? I'm facing this situation with my manager. I'm having these issues with my team. I have this difficult decision. You know, you come with an incredible amount of corporate experience and you work with other, executives. What should I do? It's very, very attractive and very, very egotistical to dish out the answer. You know, oh, you got to do this because I know. And whenever I ask the difficult questions and my clients still don't have the right solution or what they perceive to be the right one, and if I find myself needing to give them that, I always put it into a question format, and I give them options, and I give them, say, what do you think if we try this? Let's consider that avenue. Let's go try it and come back and see what worked and what didn't work. And I think this is what makes my customers come back for more, honestly.
I love that. Hayssam, thank you so much for sharing. I want to jump into the power section of the podcast today. I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Yalla, let's go.
So if you were to leave the world with one final message, we call it the golden nugget here at Rise Up For You, what would your golden nugget be?
Live in the present moment. Be in the present, because that's the only way you can live a life of abundance. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're very big on values here at Rise Up For You. Values provide clarity. They provide direction. What would you say is your number one, or like the first thing that comes to mind, a value for you that's non-negotiable?
Passion and commitment. If anybody here does not have passion for anyone, don't expect to be successful. Passion is the fuel to success, period. You don't have to be the best at it. When you're passionate and you sort of exude of love and energy and enthusiasm, it's infectious. People will get on board.
It is 100%. And final question for you, before I ask the final question, Hayssam, where can we connect with you? I know you're big on LinkedIn, but tell our audience a little bit more where they can find you before I ask my final question.
We are everything on RPM, Consultancy and Training. RPM, Romeo Papa Mike. It stands for Resource Performance Management. We are on LinkedIn, on all of the social media. My personal Instagram is Hayssam Al Amine. And on LinkedIn as well, literally on every single social media platform. And of course, Just Google me and I'll pop up like a genie. I'm everywhere.
Fantastic. And we'll put in the show notes for you as well. And anybody that's listening, you can click the show notes. Final question for you, Hayssam. The golden question that we ask every podcast guest is, as you know, the company is Rise Up For You. What comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase, Rise Up For You?
We rise by lifting others. Yeah. And I think the only way we can rise is by when we rise for you. So what comes to my mind is rise up. I can imagine somebody atop of a hill or a cliff and says, "Come up, let me help you," and then we help each other. That's what it rings about. And I love the name.
Thank you. I love it, Hayssam. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's truly been an honor to have you on the show. We'll have to have you back because there's a lot of things I want to talk about: customer service, dive into coaching more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone that's listening, thanks so much for joining the Rise Up For You podcast. We're all about supporting your success, your growth, to help you be the absolute best that you can be, whether you're a leader, entrepreneur, it does not matter. It's all about pushing your potential, and we're here to support you. So thanks for joining the Rise Up For You podcast. We'll see you next time. Hayssam, thanks again.
Thank you, Nada. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and check us out on social media. We are everywhere, from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook, at our simple handle @Rise Up For You. On every single platform, it's exactly the same. And we're providing new content on every single platform, so there's something different everywhere. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, and connect with us on social media. I'll see you next time.